Donald Trump's presidency was never going to be about lowering the cost of groceries, cutting the cost of eggs, making gas cheaper, investing in American infrastructure, or any pseudo-campaign promise that he made. Donald Trump's presidency was always going to be about the corruption of himself and those around him, and making sure Donald Trump could use all of his executive power to go after his political enemies for holding him accountable. Not breaking the law like Donald Trump did and got off, but trying to hold him accountable. And that is exactly what we are seeing already before Donald Trump is even sworn in. He promised to go after Liz Cheney, to go after Adam Kinzinger, Mark Milley, and Jack Smith, and now he is moving forward with those plans. But what he didn't expect is as much pushback as he is getting from those individuals, especially Liz Cheney, who just called Donald Trump out in a way that made him so upset that he melted down on Truth Social. And we are going to get into all of that. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really means the world to me. Now let's get into this reporting from Chris Hayes about Liz Cheney pushing back against Donald Trump, and then we'll check out his meltdown on Truth Social.
If there's one thing Democrats and Donald Trump agreed on before the election, it was that Trump wanted to weaponize the government against his political foes. We're already getting a blueprint of how he might do that. Trump's toadies in the House just ginned up a criminal referral, basically spelling out how the FBI can use trumped-up charges to go after one of MAGA's most vocal critics, former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney. Trump received the message loud and clear, posting that Liz Cheney could be in a lot of trouble, effectively signaling that his choice for FBI Director Kash Patel, should he be confirmed, should target her come January. Democrats labeled Trump a threat to democracy during the presidential campaign. Remember that? We were all here. We all saw it. Trump won the election anyway, and now he's, guess what, acting like a threat to democracy, as they warned. And what I would say is Democrats can't just plug their ears and pretend it isn't happening now. Someone's going to say something, right? If Trump's FBI shows up at Liz Cheney's house to put her on show trial. Sherilyn Ifill holds the Vernon Jordan Chair in Civil Rights at Howard University, where she's the founding director of the 14th Amendment Center for Law and Democracy. She previously served as the president and director counsel of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and she joins me now. Let's start on this, on the explicitness here of this these machinations. I mean, he pledged during the campaign. He said in an interview on NBC he thinks these people should be in jail. This was teed up by Republican allies in Congress. Now he's, he doesn't have to actually write a memo or call Kash Patel silently. Like, it's all there for all of us to see.
Yeah, and he said in an interview that, I'm not going to tell them to do it, but I think they have to look into it, right? So we know what Trump's intentions are. And I think you hit the nail on the head earlier, Chris. Trump has not ceased to be a threat to democracy because he won the election, right? He is actually more of a threat. And I think I understand the difficulty that the Democrats are having figuring out how to go forward and how to navigate this landscape. It is difficult, but it is not going to be effectively navigated by pretending that Trump won an election and now we all come together and make things happen. It also won't work to pretend as though this is Trump's first term. Too much has happened since Trump's first term. January 6th happened. The January 6th hearings happened. But most importantly, the Supreme Court happened. And the Supreme Court told the country and told Donald Trump that nothing that he does while he is president, except for the most extreme activities on the outer edges of his executive power, can be criminally prosecuted. And most importantly and most frighteningly, they suggested that even anything he does with the Department of Justice, that he is essentially over the Department of Justice in very explicit ways. And Trump understands now that he has full authority and power, that he won't be held accountable. And where there is impunity, there will be excess. Mm-hmm. And the question is, how are the Democrats going to deal with this? How are they going to talk about it? And how are they going to deal with it?
Yeah, one thing that's been interesting is there's this debate happening, right, about how to deal with Trump, right? And it's a debate in some ways the contours are familiar to other debates I've seen after George W. Bush won in 2000. Famously, Ted Kennedy worked with him on his signature piece of legislation, which was the No Child Left Behind Act, right? So they thought, okay, well, he won. We're gonna meet him halfway. Mitch McConnell took an opposite tack when Barack Obama was elected, right? We're gonna resist. What's striking me is that all of that is on one axis, like, oh, what should we do about the bills? Then there's like, well, what are you going to do when he starts prosecuting people? Like, they're just on different axes. And whatever conversation's happening here feels like removed from this one, if that makes sense.
Well, in a way, I think what the Democrats should be doing is on the bills, they should be talking directly with their counterparts, which are the Republicans in the House and the Senate. That's who they should be engaging with. That's who they should be calling out. That's who they should be exposing and demanding that they do their job. That's who they should be telling the American people how embarrassing it is that these people have allowed one random billionaire to essentially take over their job, that they have allowed the president to take over the historic role of Congress in a system of checks and balances. No one's explaining that to the American people, that having the president call and say, kill this bill, is a problem, right? So they need to be doing that first and foremost. That's what they should be doing on the bills. The other overarching piece is kind of their meat and potatoes. Let's remember the words of Ruby Freeman. Do you know what it's like to be targeted by the President of the United States? I don't presume that because Liz Cheney is wealthy and a conservative and from a conservative old line family, that it is not also troubling to her to be targeted by the President of the United States.
So I want to stop that segment right there, and we are going to watch the rest of it because it is incredibly great reporting. But before we do, I want to check out what Donald Trump had to say on Truth Social, losing his mind over Liz Cheney in this post right here. Trump wrote, Liz Cheney has been exposed in the interim report by Congress of the J6 Unselect Committee as having done egregious and unthinkable acts of crime. At the same time, however, she helped the Democrats lose the election by giving her support. She is so unpopular and disgusting, a real loser. Yeah, so clearly pretty unhappy Donald Trump there, saying that Liz Cheney committed so many egregious crimes, but he doesn't want to say which crimes specifically. And although Donald Trump will use his executive power and his influence over the courts to try to get Liz Cheney obviously indicted, but then convicted, unless Donald Trump has a crime to point out, there is still some security in our belief that the courts will do their jobs and not convict someone who hasn't committed a crime like Liz Cheney didn't against Donald Trump. I don't know how she broke the law on the January 6th committee, playing footage of the unlawful insurrection Donald Trump incited, but I guess he has 4 years to try to figure that out. And he hasn't done so since. But again, this is what we need to be talking about with regards to what Donald Trump is focused on. It's not eggs, it's not groceries, it's not gas, it's not you or me, it's not even the stock market. Donald Trump is focused on vengeance. Nothing more, nothing less. And thank God those people he's going after are trying to hold him accountable still, as we can see more of in the rest of this segment.
Trump wants to fire black generals and others who support diversity from the Department of Defense. These are not things that you can work with him on. So Trump is who Trump is. And in addition to the things that he believes, he's also incredibly vindictive, and he now has the power to carry forth his appetite for vengeance. And the Democrats need to array themselves as the protectors of the American people, as the people who are explaining to the country that this danger exists and who are vowing to do everything in their power to protect ordinary people, whether they are journalists, whether they are ordinary election workers, whether they are people who criticize the president in their writing or in their speeches, that they are going to protect our democracy by ensuring that we still live in a country where the citizens have the right to criticize those in power. And I'm not hearing any leaders in the Democratic Party speak to that. I'm hearing them talk about, the continuing resolution, which is incredibly important, but that's about exposing Mike Johnson as being the feckless, ineffective, quote unquote, leader that he is. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to expose him and to expose the Republicans and to expose the danger of having a billionaire, a capricious billionaire who actually knows very little about how the government works, come in and put his thumb on the scale. And I just would like to see the Democrats marshal what I think are these tools and this power that would give them the ability to talk directly to the American people. The Democrats' game right now is communication, and I'm not hearing the communication.
Yeah, I mean, public communication and public opinion are kind of everything at this point. I saw polling today, to your point, that asked people, the Washington Post, we had it earlier, I think we have it now, but, do you approve or disapprove of Donald Trump going after journalists, prosecuting journalists that wrote things he didn't like, and it was 88% disapprove. Like, the core civic commitments of this country are, it doesn't all change overnight. People don't like that. And someone's got to speak up for them. And I think you're right about fear, particularly coming from, we should say, LDF, where you worked, which is a place that did its work under threats of physical violence constantly.
Yes.
And people did the work they had to do.
And I think that people don't understand that. Yes, that civil rights organizations and others, everyone is frightened. There's nothing wrong with saying that you're afraid of retaliation and violence. There's nothing wrong with that. No. But we press through and we do the work anyway. Right. And it would be really great if the leadership of the opposition party would make clear that they stand with those who are nevertheless going to do their job as journalists, as lawyers, as activists, as ordinary citizens who have the right to speak truth to power.
We need more people like Liz Cheney to be unafraid in opposing Donald Trump. And we need to make sure our messaging around their opposition is about how distracted he is from keeping his promises about lowering costs, which he just won't be able to do. One, because you can't, and two, because he doesn't know how. And so that's how we need to message. It can't just be about Donald Trump's attacks on Liz Cheney. We also have to make sure that in this argument, we're talking about what that is leading him not to do. And it's focused on the things he said he would do, which of course were lies. We know that. People are now starting to learn. And we're going to talk about that every single day on the show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around at the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.